Kodi, thank you so much for coming on to 98%.
Thanks for having me, Daphne. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna explain what 98% is all about for any new listeners or people watching. 98% stems from one statistic that only 2% of collegiate athletes go pro. So what happens to the other 98%? My goal with 98% is to empower other athletes to share their stories because it can inspire and impact anybody that could be going through a similar journey. So Kodi and I, we met at our corporate jobs.
Yeah.
And I was like, you doing track? Yeah. So it's so cool to meet another athlete in the corporate space because I think a lot of us kind of take a couple twists and turns. It's always a special moment when you actually get to meet somebody kind of in the same place as you that had the same experiences as you did before. Kodi, I would love for you to share your story on how you got into track and field and your journey from high school to college, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So I started running track way back, I think, in elementary or junior high school. You know, that type of phase where maybe you're in junior high and you test out the different sports like track, basketball, volleyball, and all that. But I wasn't really with the balls, you know, like I was, they weren't my strongest sports and I didn't really enjoy them. But when it came to track, every season I just felt free. So running track just became my staple. I didn't bother to do, you know, basketball or volleyball or anything like that in high school. I just was like straight up track. I loved it. I remember, I think it was my 8th grade year. I got all first place in 300 meter hurdles. Like I loved it. Track was just great. So yeah, I kept that up all the way through high school, through college, and then I'm here now.
It's so funny hearing people that actually ran track from such a young age. Like that is mind-boggling to me because I didn't start till like competitively sophomore year of high school. So for all y'all to be running from Bantam, like how are you not tired?
Well, I never did the junior Olympics. I mean, I never did that. I did it all through school, through my school. So, I mean, either way, I guess that's still starting early. Yeah. I would say I wasn't into the summer track stuff until high school. And even at that, I never really competed in summer track. So, yeah, it's really crazy. You started sophomore year of high school. Like
competitively, yeah. I was just having fun freshman year. One of his daughters was my rival, and he was a recruiter for the LA Dodgers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he went to talk to my dad, and like, does she have a coach? You should go get her a private coach. And that was kind of how, like, my dad actually got some understanding. Did you know that your child could run college sports and get a scholarship? And so that's kind of how that window had opened, you know, I didn't know that was a thing that you could do. How was that transition from high school to college? I know that you were a walk-on athlete, so I'd like you to talk about that experience.
Yeah, so in high school, my goal was to get a scholarship because I wanted to get my school paid for because initially my plan was to go to medical school. And so I thought, okay, if I can get this first part of school paid for, and then, you know, the rest I can, you know, deal with, right? So, anyway, the walk-on situation happened because that's just how my own case happened. Like, my times were all right, because I ran the 400 meter. That was my main event, but I just don't think that the focus from my coaches were on me enough. There's this thing that I kind of like carried, like this idea of people having talent and then people having heart. So I was one of those people who had heart, and so it took a lot more work for me to like get to a higher level in terms of performance. So like that's kind of how it happened. And plus when it came to recruiting, like there were a lot of political things going on in high school with the coaching staff, and you know, that kind of played a huge role actually in my own case in getting a scholarship. So that's kind of how I ended up with the walk-on situation. So, I mean, my coach was kind enough to speak to my future at that time college coach to say, hey, like, I have this athlete, you know, this is her profile basically, you know, you want to take her on as a walk-on at least. So that's how that happened.
As a walk-on athlete, did you have like the same perks as a scholarship athlete did? Like, what was your experience like as a walk-on athlete?
Some perks, not all of them. So I was able to take advantage of the tutoring. So got some great tutors. You know, they had some really good tutors. So I took advantage of that. You know, and just the training, the physical therapy aspect of things, like the trainers and just the facilities, using the facilities alone, that's, to me, is a great perk as an athlete. Your facilities are great, awesome, I guess, especially depending on which school you go to. So those were the main perks. In terms of everything else, of course, the money, which I mean, I didn't get that part, but yeah, and just the general respect coming in from just different athletes. Like, you're an athlete, so there's camaraderie between different squads. Like, oh, football, you know, oh, yeah, you know, baseball, soccer.
It's like it's not even something that we even talk about. If you're a walk-on or a scholarship athlete, you don't really talk about how much money you have. It's not something you really want to even share.
Exactly. Yeah.
At the end of the day, but there is something that kind of plays on your mind as being a walk-on athlete with no money or a book scholarship, or you got 50% or you have a full scholarship. So there's something that you have to prove no matter on whatever level that you're on. And you had said something about your coach actually figured out the right training for you and worked with you on making you the best athlete that you wanted to be and that he could make you out to be, and using that heart versus talent. So I want you to elaborate on that.
Yeah. So, like I said, due to a lot of the political things going on in high school with the coaching staff, and you know, coaches leave, coaches go, some maybe go coach other sports and stuff like that, that played a large role in me personally missing out on that there's a crucial time period, you know, every athlete knows there's a crucial time period where it, you know, determines if you're able to latch on and get some scholarship offers and stuff like that. Unfortunately, because of whatever they had going on, it affected mine. So anyway, you know, with my training, you know, I wasn't, unfortunately, I'm not saying that I had to struggle to really perform, but you know, you just have some teammates that just, they excel naturally. Naturally, like God just said here, you know, and they have, I mean, they're just able to breeze through, you know, times, and it's like it's nothing. So I wasn't blessed like that. Now, I was good, but you know, as an athlete, there's always room for improvement. So one of my coaches, you know, finally he was like, you know what, we're gonna do this on our own. Like, we're gonna do, I created a plan specifically for you, and I know exactly what you need now. So he took me aside at practice, everybody did their own thing. I had my own workouts. And then some other girls probably had their own workouts too, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that really improved my performance. I was breezing through times at meets. You know, I'm here like winning medals, and I'm here like finally making it to regionals and stuff, you know? So yeah, it was a good feeling. So yeah, the idea of, you know, talent versus heart, that came into play, you know, in my situation a lot, because I wasn't blessed with that much talent as like maybe other people. So it was my heart that took me through, that got me to where I was able to, you know, be in a much better position than before.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to touch on this talent versus heart, right? Like you said, like some people are just thrown God-given ability, right? And like I think I was one of the people that actually had that talent, that God-given ability, but I also had heart. And there's levels to it. There's the ones that have this would be a cute little graphic, but there's the ones that have talent, no heart. There's the ones that have talent and heart, and then there are ones that have, you know, a little bit of talent and a lot of heart, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one of the three you have. It's a matter of like what you do with it. And there's a lot of athletes that have talent, and then they get to college and they completely fail at the sport. And just the challenges of coming to college, you're away from your family, your parents, and all of that plays a role into kind of how you excel in college. So it doesn't matter what kind of God-given ability you were that you have. It's a matter of what you do with that. It's really about the journey, and it's also important how you finish, but not everybody finishes the same.
Absolutely. Not everybody finishes the same. And when it comes to collegiate level athletics and beyond, heart is what gets you through.
Mm-hmm.
Your talent, great, but heart is what gets you through like the most difficult and strenuous periods where you're just like, bro, like what is this? You know, heart is really, I think, in my opinion, I think, you know, you can have that talent, great, you know, but like heart really is what, in my opinion, pushes you through.
Yeah, and then I want to kind of go back to something you said, that you were trying to go to med school. You're trying to do medicine. And you know, as Nigerians, you know, who we were taught to be, right, is either a lawyer, engineer, or a doctor. You're not a doctor today.
No, I'm not a doctor. You know, the funny thing about me is like I went into school majoring in international business, and then pre-med I treated it like my minor. So I was like, I'm going to medical school, yes, but I still want a business degree because I know that ultimately I'm going to be doing some sort of business, whether it's my, you know, working as a doctor to fuel my business or whatever. I was like, I just knew that business was really, you know, where was that for me.
Yeah.
That was my ultimate end goal. But, you know, as you can tell, like I'm not a doctor. After my bachelor's degree, I took some time to kind of figure it out. Like, you know, I applied to medical school and everything, but I was like, I don't think I actually really, really want this, just because thinking about the full picture thing, I'm just like, the end goal is the same. So to me, medicine was almost like a means to an end. It wasn't really like what I wanted to actually do with my life. So I just ended up going in for my MBA, and now I'm working consulting.
And it's so crazy. Like, did you know that consulting was even an option?
Yeah, consulting was it wasn't the ultimate end goal. My ultimate end goal is to be like full on entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. But consulting I definitely wanted to do, but at the time my impression was that consulting was for those who had maybe like 10, 15 years of experience. But coming out of my MBA program, going to career fairs and things like that, that's when I saw our, you know, company at career fairs, and they're like, no, we're looking for fresh graduates. And I was like, oh, so that's how I got into the consulting world.
Oh, that's awesome. I had no clue. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was a thing. How I got into the world of consulting was I ended up meeting somebody who was looking for a job, and I was like, oh, why don't you be a consultant? Mm-hmm. So I introduced him to the company, not knowing what a consultant even was, but I was like, why don't you just do that? And so he got into the company and was like, Dad, you should come and be a consultant. And I was like, no, like I have a degree in sociology. Why would anybody want me to, what am I consulting on? Like, how to finesse your classes, do that. Like, what do you mean to be a consultant? He was like, no, Dad, like people here have history degrees, political science degrees, sociology degrees. Like, come on, just come and interview and whatever. And it was then I learned, you know, how to interview, how to put my resume together, kind of all of those things. And now I've been a consultant for 3 years.
3 years. My first year of college, you know, I was at school in Oklahoma, and after I stopped running, you know, I actually transferred schools because it was just too expensive for me to go to school. out of state like that. So I transferred to a school in Texas, and you know, I actually tried to get on the team at my new school, you know, and I was like, you know, hey, let me walk on, you know, show you what I got. I know I have it, so you know, let me do it. But they weren't really interested. They weren't even really like checking for me. So I just, at that point, it took over a year for me to really like say okay. And I don't think I ever really said I'm done. It just kind of fizzled out. I don't know if there was ever like a time where I was like, okay, it's time to hang them up. Let's stop, you know, trying or whatever. But I think because I just busied myself with school and work and other activities, it kind of just ended up fizzling out. But there were moments where there was just this feeling of nostalgia. Yeah. Maybe when I walked by the track, you know, because they built a new track facility right across the street from my apartment. So like on the way to school every day, I would see the tracks. I'm just like, dang, you know, what I would ask myself what could have been if I had kept going, if it was even for me to keep going. But yeah, it was a whole thing. I know that a lot of people kind of go through a much more dramatic, I don't think dramatic is the appropriate word, but maybe more serious type of transition. Yeah,
not being able to kind of let go of the sport. I mean, I think the nostalgia is a beautiful thing. To be able to like think on and remember and like kind of cherish those moments. But like, yeah, at times like I'll walk past the track, or something that I do that's something I do is really funny is when I'm flying, like I'm on a plane, and like we're getting close to touching down, I'll count the tracks. I still do this to this day.
Really?
I'll count the tracks that I can see
wow.
when we're going down. So it's just one of those like, I don't know, like I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think also like, yeah, there's some athletes that take a while to kind of switch, you know, kind of just make that transition. Like it's okay to let go. Yeah. You know, it's not such a bad thing. And I know it took me, maybe 2 years. I was thinking maybe even 3 years. 3 years before I was like, okay, Daphne, like you don't have to do track workouts to stay fit anymore.
Yes. Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, I would still go to the track, and I'm like, and it's funny. It's so funny because I would come home visit my parents and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to the track to work out. My parents would be like, oh, okay. I think if my child came to me and said that, especially after running track specifically, I'd be especially a bit worried. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. But I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to the track, and I go out there and I run a lap, you know,
do your warm up, then you're doing like, okay, here's my workout. Yeah. Put your little timer on your watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna run like 4 200s. I'm gonna call it a day. You know, I'm gonna do something light. You know, something I can do. But it's so funny. You don't even count those. And I'm just here to work out. But really, it's because I haven't truly let go of the sport.
Yeah, you miss it.
You miss it, and I can honestly say, in the year of 2019 is when I completely like broke loose from the sport. Yeah. What are other ways that I can work out and really enjoy working out without having to put one foot in front of the other and run fast? Yeah. Before the pandemic happened, like I got into like boxing and like different HIIT workouts and just class pass, using different classes, yoga, whatever. Just like what other ways are there to be fit and to really enjoy my athleticism without, you know,
going to the track, just doing what you know. And I mean, it's almost like muscle memory. Like, dang, that's just what I'm used to. Yeah. It's what you're used to. It's what you know. It's what you feel the most comfortable doing.
If I were to get you and a couple girls to come to the track in our big old age of, would you come?
I would come. But we're gonna have to like settle what this workout's gonna be.
You know, no, maybe we'll do like, 40 meters. 60 meters.
Okay.
You know, something like maybe do a quick 200 just to see, what that feels like, because I think it would also just be fun to be like, dang, I know I used to be able to do this with such, but I know for a fact that I will bust a hip If I tried to run a 200 tomorrow.
Girl, I would have to do prep work before this said workout.
And I promise you, I will send you the workout beforehand so you can get mentally prepared for what we're going to do, even though it's going to be all in fun. So I think like it's just a beautiful thing to even just be able to kind of talk about what you missed in the sport, and just to even see how much growth you've gotten out of it.
Yeah, it took a lot of like mental work, prayer, lots of prayer. Yeah. So like, it took a lot, but I think ultimately it really honed me. Like it helped to hone this person I am and the person I'm becoming. Because at the end of the day, like you're still taking some of those principles with you, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So I mean, being an athlete is a big deal. I think, and people think it's just about the sport, and it's not really about just the sport and the competitiveness. It's like it's all in your mind. Yeah.
Kodi, I just thank you for coming on here and dropping gems and for telling your story. I know that one thing I just want to make sure you know is that your story is meaningful, unique, and inspiring, and it can impact other people's lives. You got a whole MBA. You are doing, you have your own business. You're doing it. My only hope is that when somebody comes and hears your story, that they feel inspired by you, and they can learn something from you, and that's when we've done our job, you know? So I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. You know, I don't really do stuff like this, so yeah. And I never really talked, I don't think I've ever really talked about this before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great to be on and talk.
I'm gonna bring you on again. Don't even think that you hide it. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.